These 3 lines of code form the basis of my Tkinter program, okay? And in fact, if I were to just run this as is, okay, lecture 15, so if I did Python 3 lecture 15, okay, you'll see that, look, it just pops up a window, okay? There's nothing in this window. There's nothing you can do with it, okay? But that's basically it, and it just sits here waiting, and then as soon as I close the window, then the program's done running. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to actually add some things to this, okay, besides just a canvas, okay? We had there was the canvas that we had, okay? And we're going to be using the canvas in the lab, okay? But for right now, we need to talk about things besides canvas because we've kind of done a lot with canvas already. Okay, so let's, all right. So the first thing is a label, okay? So I'm going to say L1 equals label, okay? And if I don't want to put in specific things, I'm going to just put in a text argument here and say this is a label, okay? All right, and just like we did with the canvas, okay, for each one of these things that we create, we're going to call this pack method, okay? So I'm going to do L1.pack. All right, now, if I save that and run it, okay, I get an error, all right? So this is the reason why I did it this way is because for most of the objects in TK or Tkinter, you need to specify the specific variable that you're setting, okay? So in the case of label, I'm actually want to set the text variable, okay? So I need to do text equals, okay? Very rarely are you able to just pass in arguments and have it work. It's going to give you these really weird errors that stro object has no attribute T. I mean, this doesn't seem like it has anything to do with what the actual problem is, okay? But the problem is that I need to specify the attribute that I want to set, okay? So anyway, I'm going to do label, I'm going to do text equals and that, all right? And so now if I run this code, okay, you'll see that, look, I don't know if you can see it, but here in this little box up here at the top, all right, it printed out, all right, just this is a label, okay? So a label, all it is just static text to indicate like something, okay? So it could be a message, it could be, you know, directions for the user, okay? This, all it really does is it just displays information, okay? You can't really interact with it, right? I'm sitting here clicking on it, nothing's happening, okay? That's all it is, okay? Now I can programmatically change this label if I want to, okay? And so I could, after I've set this up, I could do L1, and the way that I programmatically change it is I'm going to use this hash or dictionary syntax. So I'm going to do L1, and then I'm going to do the square brackets text, and I'm going to say, now this is the label, okay? All right, and so what will happen when I run this, okay, is, all right, that ran so quickly that, see how it says now this is the label? You never even saw it say this is a label, because what happened is it created the label. It was called this is a label, and then it immediately changed it to now this is the label before you could even see it. Okay, so somebody asked the question, what does pack do? Okay, well, I'm going to show you. All right, so let me remove this. All right, I'm going to comment out the L1.pack. Okay, and I'm going to save it. And oh, where did my, oh, here it is. Okay. All right, now when I run this, okay, look, okay, if you take away the pack, then TK knows that you've created this object, but you haven't really added it to the display. You haven't added it to this window, okay? So even though if I go back here and you see, I created a label, okay, my label actually isn't going to show up or be added until I use this pack function, okay? There's another function called grid that we're going to look at later, okay, that we can use in place of pack to add it in a like more specific place, okay? But for right now, all we're doing is in order to make sure it gets added, we're going to do pack, okay? And so in all graphical user interface packages, they have things called layout managers, and those are all concerned with deciding how to lay out the components. You know, where do they go in relation to one another, and things like that, okay? So this pack one is just super simple. It means just slap it in there somewhere, okay? All right, so I need the pack. I need to have the pack in order for it to actually show up on my window. So I'm going to uncomment that back in, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. Okay. And so there you see that there's my label back. Okay. All right. So that's a label, not particularly interesting. Okay. So now let's look at the next thing, which is an entry. Okay. So I'm going to do E1 equals entry. Okay. And you can also put text in here and say, this is an entry. Okay. And so there's my entry. Okay. And then I'll do E1.pack. Okay. So again, I have to pack all of these things. All right. Now, when I do this, okay, you will see that it might be kind of hard to see here, but actually what I have is I have an input field here that I can type things in. Okay, do you see that? All right, now you notice that even though I said I put in text equals this is an entry, okay, it didn't actually put that this is an entry anywhere, okay? So I guess that attribute isn't something that the entry cares about, okay? So you can see right here that I now have the ability to type things, okay? Kind of cool. All right. And I can create all kinds of these things, okay? So let me go back here and say, all right, I'm going to create, maybe what I'll do is I'll say, I'm going to change this label to type some stuff below, okay? And since this text didn't seem to do anything, I'm going to just remove it, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy all of this. All right. And then we'll say type some more stuff below. Okay. And I guess I need to have different, so we'll have L2, L2, E2, and E2. Okay. All right. So now I should have 2 labels and 2 entries. Okay. And if I run this, then you see, ooh, look. Now my GUI's getting interesting. Okay. So I can type some stuff in here. I can type some more stuff in here, okay? Well, I can't really, what can I really do with this, okay? All right, and so now we're gonna go into our next item, which is a button, okay? And this is where things start getting crazy. Okay, so we're gonna do B1 equals button, okay? I'm gonna do text equals click here for stuff to happen, okay? All right. Now, I'm going to do b1.pack. Okay. All right. So now I have, again, 2 labels, 2 entries, and a button. Okay. All of these button, entry, and label, these are all Tkinter things. Okay. So when we imported star, we imported label, entry, and button. Okay. So if I run this code, okay, now you see that down here at the bottom, look, I have this button that I can click on, okay? And kind of hard to see, okay? But nothing's really happening, okay? I'm clicking on it and it's not really doing anything, okay? And so now the question becomes, what can I do? I wonder if this might be label equals. Let me see. I just want to check something really quick. Nope, it's not labeled. Okay, so I was right. It was text. Okay, so now the question is, we want to be able to actually make the button do something interesting. Okay, and so what you do in Tkinter is we need to bind this button to some kind of a function. Okay, and there's a couple of different ways we can do that. All right, so the first way that I'm going to show you is I'm going to do the command. Okay, so we can say command equals, and then you just give it the name of a function. Okay, so myfunc. All right, you don't even need to use the parentheses. Okay, just myfunc. All right, now what I can do is up here at the top, I can define a function called myfunc. Okay, and I can even accept an event object. Okay, and right now I'm not going to make this function do anything interesting. I'm just going to make it print something to the console. The button was pressed. Okay. All right. So that's all that's going to happen right now. Okay. And if I go in here and run this, I have an oh, I didn't put in a comma. Yeah, I need to do that. Okay, so there's my comma. Okay. So now you will see that I can type some stuff. I can type some stuff. I can click here. Okay. Now you'll notice that something happened when I tried to click on this. Okay. It says myfunc is missing one required positional argument event. Okay. So but you can see that it's doing something when I actually click on this. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is the event stuff is actually a different way. So I'm going to remove the event like this. Okay. And I'm going to just leave it like that. Okay. So I'm going to have command equals myfunc. Now I have this function that doesn't accept any arguments. Okay. And now when I run it, okay, see how it says the button was pressed? See how that's doing that? Okay. So now the question is, all right, well, again, this still really isn't doing anything all that interesting. Okay. Like that's great that it's printing stuff out to the console, but I want it to do something in my GUI. Okay. So let's go ahead and change things up a little bit. All right. So what we'll do now is we're going to say, okay, you know what? Let's let me think. What do we want to do? Let's make the function. What should we make the function do? Try to think of something easy. Well, here, I'll tell you what. Instead of, for starters, what we'll do is instead of just saying the button was pressed, we will print out the value of one of these fields right here. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I am going to say, let's see. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a brain malfunction. Okay, so in order to do that, we will say, get rid of all this. And we'll say, we're going to print, let's see, I think it's E1. I can't. Okay, let me try this. Let me do, it's E1.get. I can't remember the syntax off the top of my head. Okay, so bear with me for a second while I fool around with this. And let me see if I can get this to do something. There. Okay, that worked. Okay, so I did remember it. Okay, so let me just go over what I did. Okay, so now basically what this function does, so we've taken this function myfunc and we've connected it to the button. right? So when you click on the button, it's going to execute this. Okay, and then this function is going to do e1.get. Well, what is e1? Okay, well, e1 is defined down here. It's this entry, and the get function returns whatever the person has typed in. Okay, all right. So the interesting thing about that is that if I were to run this again, okay, and I were to type some stuff in here, blah, okay, and then I click, see how it prints blah? If I change this to foo and then click it again, see how it changes it? Okay, so I can now that I can get this value, I can actually do something with it. So maybe what we'll do is we'll take whatever's in here and we'll just copy it into this thing right here. Okay, so yeah, let's do that. All right, so I will, instead of just printing this out, I'm going to do e2.set. Okay, so this is how you can set the value, I think. We'll see in a second. All right, and then I'm going to do e1.get. Okay, so that's a little bit confusing. So let me break it out into steps. So I'll do text equals e1.get. Okay, and then we'll do e2.set text like that. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, so if I run this, all right, if I type in some stuff, I click on the button, and oh no, entry does not have an attribute set. Okay, so I forgot the actual command. Okay, so this is actually an important thing to know if you guys don't know this already, all right? If you can't remember some of the commands for Python things, okay, the built-in help function, right? If I go to Python 3, so I can do, from Tkinter import star, and then I can just do help and I can do entry, okay? And this will give me all of the methods that there are for entry, okay? So there's all this kind of crap here. See how there's the init, there's the constructor, okay? So here's get to return the text, okay? There's insert, okay? So I can actually insert values here. Maybe that's the one that I need. I can select text that's in there, destroy, after. Okay, there's a lot of stuff. So it looks like insert is the one that I need. So I'm going to go ahead and try that. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of set, I'm going to do insert, and I'll do text. And then it was looking for a position. So I'm going to put 0, and then I'll show you what happens when I change it. Okay, so if I do this, all right, so I'm going to type in blah. When I click on this, bad entry index. Oh, did I do it in the wrong order? Maybe I did it in the wrong order. Let me look. Well, this is kind of embarrassing. I'm not as well prepared for class as I should have been, clearly. Okay, so let's see. All right, so okay, so we have to do the index first and then the string. Okay, so I need to put in the number and then the string that I want to do. Okay. All right, so I botched that. Let me change this order around. So at position 0, I'm going to put in the text. Okay. All right, now hopefully, good night. Okay. If I click on the button, okay, see how it did that? All right, and then if I change this to blah, okay, now it's just inserting it, okay, so it left all that stuff that was in there before, right? So if I typed in even more stuff, like let's say I typed in foo, okay, it's inserting it at position 0, okay? So that's what the insert method does, okay, is it ignores what's already in here and just inserts more text onto it. So I'd have to go look and find another method to delete it. But at any rate, you can see that now my program is actually doing something. Okay, I can keep on clicking this, right? And you'll see that the GUI is responding to different events. Okay. And so if I was to say, you know what, let's go ahead and make like some sort of a calculator, right? Like a calculator that converts Celsius to Fahrenheit. You can see that like I could have one field right here that says, all right, type in the temperature in Celsius. I could click on a button, do the calculation, and then put the result of the calculation here into this other text field. The other thing that I could do is I could programmatically change the label if I wanted to. Okay. All right. So that's basically, that's all I just wanted to get into the very, very basics of these Tkinter kinds of things. Now, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the lab or the assignment, okay, but basically what you're going to do in the lab is you're going to have an edit field for the X value of a circle, an edit value for the Y value of a circle, an edit field for the radius of the circle, and an edit field for the color of the circle. All right. So you're going to put all those in, then you're going to have a button that says draw, and underneath that, you're going to have a big canvas. Okay. So you're going to reuse a bunch of code that you did from your previous assignments. Okay. And once they've put in the items, you're going to click the button. Okay. That's going to gather up all of the values that they typed in using this get thing that I showed you. Okay. And then it's going to actually draw a circle based on the types of, based on whatever data that they put in there. Okay. That's what you're going to be doing for the lab. Okay. So at this point, you probably have enough information to, if not completely finish this, to at least get a very, very good start on it. Okay. And so what I would recommend you do is you get started on it. And then if you have any questions, we can go over it on Thursday. All right. Now, the assignment is actually a little bit more tricky. Okay. Because the assignment, I think, do I have the assignment here? I think I did it here. So the assignment, I'm just going to run it for you so you can see what it looks like. Okay. I think this is it. Yeah. Okay. So this right here is a very, very ugly looking tic-tac-toe board. Okay. I don't know how well you can see it over Zoom, but there are 9 squares here. Okay. And then there's this label down here that says player 1's turn. Okay. So if I were to click on one of these squares, okay, see how it put the tiny little X there in the center? Now you'll notice that the label changed to player 2's turn. Okay. Well, if I try and click here in the center, okay, you'll see that it prints out this invalid selection. Okay. It doesn't actually do anything. It's still player 2's turn. So I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to click over here. Look, it printed an O. Okay, so now I have an X and an O. All right. And you'll notice that the label changed back to player 1's turn. Okay, so maybe I'll put an X here. Okay. Well, if the O player is smart, he'll try and block me. So then I'll go here, and then maybe the O player makes a big mistake and actually goes here instead. Okay, if I put an X here, okay, then it says player 1 wins, because I've got the 3 X's in a row. And then the game, now I can keep on clicking here. I didn't actually add in any code to deal with what happens if you do that. But that's basically the program that you're going to do, okay? It seems pretty simple, and overall it is pretty simple, but it's a little bit tricky, okay? And so there's going to be some stuff we're going to talk about next class. Specifically, we're going to talk about the grid layout to get these buttons laid out the way that we want. We're going to talk about changing the text of the button and changing a label. I mean, we kind of talked about changing a label programmatically a little bit today, but we'll talk about that a little bit more. And we're going to talk about sort of like what you have to do to figure out whether or not a player wins or not, okay? Because there's basically 8 different ways a player could win if you get 3 X's in a row here, 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 down, 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 or diagonal, right? There's 8 different ways to win at tic-tac-toe. Okay, so that's what you're going to be doing for your assignment, is you're going to be programming this tic-tac-toe game, okay? So what I want you to do between now and Thursday is get a head start on it, start trying to see both with the lab and this, start trying to work through it. And then on Thursday, that'll be your opportunity to ask a bunch of questions And hopefully I can answer those, okay? In addition to going over some of the stuff that you'll need in order to be able to complete this assignment, okay? All right, so it is 8:29. There's 1 minute left. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything you would like me to further talk about before, in the next, minute or so? Okay, provided enough information. Great. All right. Yeah, so like I say, try and get started on it. The tic-tac-toe one's a little bit trickier than you might think, okay? So it's not one that I would wait until the last minute to do unless you're a very strong Python programmer. If you're a little bit like, I don't know, then you're going to want to get started on it early, okay? Because there's a lot of weird, tricky little nuances that you're going to have to deal with. Okay, everybody have a good night, and I'll see you guys on Thursday.